Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Sandra Smith, and I'm the Sage Intelligence Product Specialist. And today is part 2 of a 3-part series called Sage Intelligence, Ignite Your Excel Skills for More Impactful Reports. We're going to be talking about a few tips in Microsoft Excel and how you can use those to create better reports. And those of you on the line are using Sage Intelligence, you'll be seeing some reports from Sage Intelligence as well. So thanks for everyone for joining today. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I am recording this webcast. We do record all these webcasts, and we will provide the recording to you in an email, probably in the next day or so. So everyone's muted on the line, but please feel free to enter your questions into the webcast Q&A control panel, or you can email me those. My email address is sandra.smith@sage.com. So please feel free to ask questions. At the end of the session, I will be answering some questions as well. So if you have some, you can save those up as well. Okay, so the agenda is pretty easy. I'm going to talk about the tips I'm going to be demonstrating. Then I'm going to get into the demonstration. Then I'm also going to be giving you some helpful learning resources on Sage Intelligence as well as helpful resources on Microsoft Excel. So stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about those towards the end of the webcast today. Okay, let's take a look at what we're going to be seeing. So tips and tricks, part 2. I'm going to be talking about how to use a nested if statement, just a simple one, but just to explain the use of a nested if. So I'm going to sneak in a formula there. And then those of you that attended last week, I said we're going to be talking about how to create a pivot table and format it. And if those of you on the line that did not or were not able to attend last week's, you can find it on our website. I'll show you where towards the end of this presentation or this webcast. Then we're going to talk about how you can show details for supporting values from a pivot table. I'm going to show you how you can customize a table. There's so many different ways you can customize it. And then how to create dynamic chart titles. That one's so much fun. And then we're going to talk about how you can enable the recipients of your Sage Intelligence distributed reports to interact with pivot table data. And then finally, we're going to use Microsoft Excel Power View feature. So we're going to look at how you can create a report using Microsoft Excel Power View. Now, all of this that I'm showing today has to be at least Microsoft Excel 2013 or above. So you have to be on that version in order to use some of this functionality. And then visit our tips and tricks page. If you go to sageintelligence.com/tips-and-tricks, you can find our tips and tricks. You can go to resources as well. And at our sageintelligence.com website, click on resources, you'll find tips and tricks. Yes, you can receive them in your email weekly too. If you want to, you can sign up just for Sage Intelligence, just for Excel, or both, and you'll get some great tips on both Sage Intelligence as well as Microsoft Excel. It's a lot of fun. Okay, now if you are a Sage user and you're using Sage Intelligence, I do want to tell everyone about the report utility available for all Sage solutions. It's available for all Sage solutions globally. The report utility is a great way to download additional free report templates that we're building. So we build these report templates. We make them available on our website. You can go to a website. These are actually pictures of a website for each of our Sage solutions. You can get a nice preview of the website, of the report here, whichever report you want to take a look at it, be it financial, a sales report, a dashboard. And then what you can do is, if you go to sageintelligence.com and go to the report utility page, you can download the report utility, which is a very quick executable. Download it to your desktop. And when you click on it, you can click on this icon. You'll be able to see a list of reports available to you in your solution so that you can download it, the report, and use it. You can run it out, and all the reports, of course, run to Microsoft Excel. So it's a very quick download, the report utility. It's a very fast download for your report to Report Manager, and so you can use these free templates. Now, I have a few examples here, but we have quite a few reports available for each Sage solution. Dashboards, cash flow, ratio reports, a trial balance, sales indicators, and even Power View and Power BI, or Power View to Power BI reports. All right, let's go ahead and get into the demonstration and take a look at some of these Excel tips. There we go. Wake up my image here. All right, so this is a similar report to what we used last time. This is a Sage Intelligence report. It's our sales report, and it's in a pivot table format, as you can see. But what I want to do is I'm down here at the bottom tab here. It's the name of our report here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to select Unhide, because for every Sage Intelligence report, all of them run out into Microsoft Excel, right? But every report includes a sheet 1 with the source data. So I'm going to unhide sheet 1, and this is the source data, okay, for this particular report. I'm going to go ahead and slide all the way over here, because what I've done is I've actually added this particular field. So if anyone on the line is familiar with this report, hasn't seen this field, we actually did that last week. We added a field using Sage Intelligence to the report, and I added this particular one for part of what I'm going to be demonstrating today. But what I also did is I looked at this, let's see if I can scroll back over, currency code. And I like that I have the currency code in here, but notice the currency code says USD, CAD, so it has a US dollar, Canadian dollar. It also has, if I scroll down further, the pound, the yen, Japanese yen. I'll scroll back up. What I want to do is I want to change this currency code into a symbol, because I want to use that maybe in a dashboard or something. It would just look a lot more interesting. Now, I've already done this because it takes a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time today, but what I did was I created this nested if statement. So I'll just click into it. And this if statement, what I'm doing is I need to, let me just go ahead and click out of it. What I want to do is I want to change this, I'm going to hide these so you can see it a little bit better. Actually, the ones that are blank, probably. I'm just going to hide these really quick. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change the currency code over here into a symbol so that I can use that in my report. So if I click into it, you can see that I've started the formula always with an equal. You type in if, and it gives you exactly what to do. So it tells you what it needs. So it needs a logical test, and then it needs a value if it's true, and then it needs a value if it's false. Now what that means is I'm going to say for currency code, so notice I clicked on this heading here, this column. For currency code, whenever you see USD, and I put it in quotes here, okay, so whenever you see USD, that's the test, then I want you to put in a $sign if it's true. And if it's false, well, you know what? I'm not there yet because I have a bunch of other codes that I want to include. So if USD is a $sign, and let's start over with an if the currency code is CAD, put in a $sign because Canadian dollar. If the currency code is, and I type all this in quotes because this is what I want it to actually look at, if it's GBP, put in the $sign. And then, and I'll walk over to the rest of the formula. If the currency code is JPN, put in this symbol. And then finally, if the logical test value, if it's true, we've got all those. If it's false, put in a 0. So notice everything has its separator. So each time you have a separator, we're moving along into what it needs. So if a currency code equals JPN separator, put in this symbol. If it's not, if none of them are, put in this 0. So you only need one of the value if it's false. Okay, you only need one value. And I put in 0. You can put in an X, you can put in a blank, you can put in something else, whatever you want to put in, as long as it's between the quotes. Now, again, there's other ways of doing this. You don't need to necessarily put in quotes. There's lots of different ways to do this. This is just one. And notice I have quite a few right parentheses. That's because we have so many left ones. So make sure you match the left parentheses and the right parentheses. Just count them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's what I have over here. All right, and so after doing that, double click and it fills in, and there you have all of your symbols. Now, where did I get the symbols? Simply go up to Insert, and your symbol's at the far right. Get the drop down, add symbol, and then the one I used is the second one down, Platinum-1 supplement. So there's the pound and the yen, there's the euro. So if there's others that you want to use, you know, you can just search through there. All right, just a little addition of a nested if statement. And I think we have one of those in our tips and tricks section on our website as well. Okay, so let's say I've added, you know, last week we added a field into this report. I showed you how to do, not this one in particular, I think it was a different one, but we can add a field, and then we added a currency. So now we can use this data in our pivot table. And that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to add a pivot table. Sorry, let me get back out of that. Okay, so adding a pivot table, very easy. We're going to do it a few times. Click on the Insert button, the Insert tab in Excel. I'm already in my resource data, my resource sheet, and I think that's it's so easy to do it that way. Click on Tables, click on Pivot Table, and it already gives you your range. You can change this if you want. I'd like to look at all of it, so I'm going to add the whole range. I'm going to do it to a new worksheet. You can put it on an existing if you want. I'm just going to select New Worksheet, select OK, and that's how easy it is. I'm going to make my pivot table field list a little bit smaller. So now you see that you have to choose your fields. And there's quite a few over here. But don't be alarmed. It's so easy. You have your list of fields, and you have each of your quadrants. You can have filters or not. It's up to you. But you'll have columns, rows, and values. So the ones I'm going to use is I'm going to use this first one, customer number name, and there it is. And then I'm going to do item number. So I'm going to scroll down. There we go. So notice I'm just clicking on them, and they're automatically assuming that I want to go to the rows section. And so that's fine. I want it to go to the rows. I can change it later if I'd like to. And then I'm going to move on down to invoice description. I'll take a look at that. But I need some values, okay? So I have some items, if you will, but now I need some values. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to grab gross profit, sales, and there we go. So if you look down at the bottom in the quadrants, you can see there's a few of them. I can scroll. I don't have a lot of room in this view, but you can see that I can get the drop down. I can change any of the field settings if I want to. Okay, the number format, all kinds of things you can do with changing the actual values. I can move them around too. So if I want to put the sales above, there we go, above the gross profit. I don't know if you saw that. It's very tight right down here. You can just grab them and move them around right here. And then if you want to filter, that's very easy to do. So I want to filter by customer. Come up here, grab the customer name and slide it right down into the filter, and there's your filter. So I'm going to close that a little bit because now I want to look here at the report. Let me zoom out. So now you can see my row labels. I've got my values over here. I can come in here and let's just say I'm going to call this sales. I'll just come over here. I don't need the, I'll just call this GP there. So I can change any of this. I can change this label as well. If I want to format more, I can change the look of it. Oh, remember the currency. Yes, I want to add the currency here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down because remember it was one of my new ones that I added. So I select currency and there's currency viewable as well. Now they've kind of stacked it. So let's see if we can change the format of that. Now, how are we going to change that format? Well, what I'm going to do is notice when I'm clicked into my pivot table tools list is up here at the top. I'm going to select Analyze. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to select Design. So what I'm going to do is from a design standpoint, so I'm in the Design tab, I'm going to come over to the far left and I'm going to click on Report Layouts. There's a few of them. So it's already in compact form, so I just clicked on that. You can see nothing happened. But the next one down is the outline. The compact form actually just keeps all that related data from spreading across the sheet horizontally and off the screen. So what it does is it minimizes the user having to scroll so much. It does have the expand and collapse, and you can see here, and it has the indentation, but that's what the compact does, is compacts everything. So if you have a lot of rows, a lot of columns, that might be the one you want to use. But I'm going to change it to outline, and I like this one. Let me click out of it so you can see it. And it just outlines it in a hierarchy across columns, so you can see everything very easily. And then finally, going to go back to design, back to report layout. Tabular form is a third one, and that shows everything in a table format. So this really makes it easier if you want to copy cells to another worksheet. I am partial, again, I'm partial to the outline form. So I'm just going to leave it as that. And you'll notice a lot of the Sage Intelligence reports are in tabular form as well, so I'll keep it on that. But that's how easy it is to change. You can also go back, you can also go back to design, and you can remove your grand totals. So if you have totals, maybe in the compact or tabular formats, you'll see totals at the rows or the columns. You can turn those on and off. And then finally, subtotals. If you want subtotals to show or not show, you can. So changing the totals changes the look. So try it out. It depends on what works for you. Okay, further with design, I could come over here, and this is the fun part. I can change the color. I'm going to just change something kind of bold like that. So I can change the color of it. And I can, now we have a filter here, so I can get the drop down. I can select all of them, uncheck all, and just look at one in particular, so I'll see the values for that one customer. Maybe uncheck that one and look at another one, or look at multiple. So you can filter the information here, but I like to add slicers. Let me try to get a little bit more table space here. I can remove this altogether as well. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to Analyze. I'm going to add a different kind of filter, and it's called a slicer. So it's just simply Analyze, Insert Slicer, and then here's all my fields from which I can slice, and I'm going to grab that currency one because that's how I just wanted to see it as a symbol instead. So now I can slice, notice everything slicing by currency. Of course, you might want to have a slicer as customer name, as a salesperson, however you want to see it. And of course, you can come up here to your options and, your slicer options, and you can change the style, you can change the color of it, you can change the size of it, even the number of columns. Lots of options you can do with that slicer, but the slicers are so much easier to filter the information. Okay, and then what we can do is in the particular value, so this sales figure, if you right-click, you can show details for it. And there's the details. Now, it does give you details for everything that's in your hidden sheet, okay? So all of the fields there, but it shows the details for your data. And it opens up a whole new sheet. So if you don't want to see this, and before you save it, you might want to just go ahead and delete that particular sheet. If not, you're going to save that sheet for the details of this one particular sales amount. Okay, next what we want to do is let's go ahead and create another one. Let's go back to our sheet 1. I'm going to rename this too. I'm just going to call this sales, my sales report. I'm going to go back to sheet 1 and I'm going to add another pivot table. So I'm going to go back to Insert, Tables, my Tables section, Pivot Table. Okay, again, I'm going to tell it what range I want. I'm just going to use the one that we have, and I'm going to create a new worksheet. I'm going to select OK. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call this Sales Data. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this sheet to create my tables, and then my charts and things, and then I'm going to move my charts, all the visuals, over to another sheet to start a dashboard. Okay, so in this case, what I want to do is excuse me, I'm going to use customer number name again, because it's got the customer number and the name. I like seeing that for my particular users. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find the value. Notice I clicked in it. It went right to the rows, and that's fine. Gross profit, since it's a number, it's a value. It's a sum. It goes right to values. And I just want customer name as a filter, so I'll drag that one down. I can click on it and move it around if I want. And I'll just leave that as is, because my dashboard's not going to include my table, only my chart is. Okay, and then that's what I'm going to do next is add a chart. So I'm going to come up here to Analyze. I'm going to click on Pivot Chart. And I love this because it gives you all these examples, column, line, pie. So you can just look at the ones, you know, so maybe this one does not work, you know, for your particular table, at least not for this one. But look at all the different charts that you can use. I'm going to go ahead and just select column. There we go. And there's my chart. It's quite big. So I'll make it a little bit smaller, see if I can get some more real estate here. Close my pivot table field chart because I believe I'm good with that. Okay, so now I have my chart and my table. And I'm just going to clean the chart up a bit. I'm going to right click on these field button and then select hide all field buttons on chart. So it just gives me a little bit more real estate. And I have all my customers, all my values here, but I want it to look a little bit more efficient for my users. I want to see my top 10. So I'll go back to my pivot table, get this drop down. I'll go to Value Filters, and then I'll go to Top 10, all the way at the bottom. Now you can do less than or equal to, greater than, between, you know, however you want to set up the look of that chart. I'll just do Top 10. So I'll select OK. And I'll also get the drop down again for more sort options because I want to see my top 5. So I'm going to look at ascending, or sorry, I want to look at my top 10, but I want to look at the first one first. So I select ascending by gross profit, you know, not by customer name, that's more A to Z. I want it by the largest gross profit. That's what's most important. Select OK, and then there it is. So now probably best to do, let me see if I can do descending on this one. So you can change it. So it changes size. Very, very easy to do. So now I have my chart, I have my table, and the next thing that I want to do is I want to add a chart title, but I want it to be, excuse me, dynamic with whatever I choose in this excuse me, in this particular filter. So in order to make it dynamic, what I'm going to do is, and I notice I have customer number over here. I'm going to go back to show my field list, and I don't want to use the customer number as a filter. I grabbed the wrong one. I'm going to do customer name. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I added both of them. I don't want that as a, and so it's just hard to see, sorry. So this should be customer number, that's customer name. So the one below is, see, I'm hovering over it, customer number name. What I can do is I can click on the drop down arrow and then remove the field. And there it goes. It's removed as a filter. So you can just design this any way you'd like. So customer name is a little bit easier to be included in the title. That's why I'm being a little picky about that. So what I can do to make this title dynamic according to what I filter on is I'll come off to the side and I'll create a formula. So let me go up to the formula bar to start my formula. Of course, they all start with equals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a text string. So I'm going to do my quotes, my quotation marks. And this is what's going to be in my title, sales for customer. And then I'm going to do a colon, because I'm going to then leave a blank so that it then enters the customer name that I choose in my filter. Okay, so from here I'll close my quotation marks. I'll add an ampersand, because an ampersand joins together two joins together text strings. And then I'm going to, after this, I'm going to point it to my chart label. Okay, so I have and. What I'm going to do is if it's joining two text strings, it's going to join this one, and it's going to join this one. And then I press enter, and there's my formula. Okay, so I have my formula ready. And of course, if you have this on the same page in your dashboard, maybe you want your table with your chart in the same dashboard, you want this on the same page, you can just hide this row if you want, or actually change it to white letters so it's not visible. You can do that just to hide it, or even put it further off. So now we're going to put it into the chart title. Again, if you don't have one, come over here to the plus sign and just click on chart title and add it. To click into the chart title, go back up to the formula bar, type equals, and point it to the formula. And there it is. So now I have sales for customer all, because that's what I've chosen. I'm looking at all of my customers here. If I get the drop down and then I uncheck all and just check my first customer, there it is, Acme Plumbing. So it's just a little nicer. It's just a little trick that you can use to, you know, to make it a little bit more personal, add a little pizzazz to it for your user. Okay, I'm going to select all so that it shows all once again. And then if you want a slicer, if you want to use a slicer instead, I'm going to click back into my pivot table. Remember, that gives you your pivot table tools tabs. And I'm going to grab Analyze, insert Slicer, and I'm going to slice on customer name. Select OK. There's my customer name. And now, look at that. It works as well. Because I'm working off of this customer name filter over here, the slicer is going to work for you. So there's Bargain Mart, etc. So isn't that cool? Now I will say, if you don't want to use this filter at all for your chart formula over here, you can add an additional pivot table with just customer name, then add the slicer, and set your formula to that individual pivot table with just customer name. Okay, so if you don't want to use this filter, but it's so much easier just to use this particular filter within your formula. I'll click on the formula one more time. So there's your formula, all right, and then you just point your heading to it, to that formula, to include it. There's where I've pointed it to that formula. Okay, and then from here, there's a lot of times when I'm when I do this, now, it's not doing it now, but when I click on, some of these filters, all right, and I clear them, I get more over here than I originally wanted. Like if I just include my top 5, when I use when I use a filter over here, sometimes it doesn't go back to 5. It shows 20 of them, or if I want my top 10, it'll show 50 of them. It doesn't stick with my filters. In that case, if you find that happening, come over here to the Analyze tab. Come back over here to your pivot chart. Open up Options. Okay, this is quite a lot, but you'll see it on the recording. Then go to your data, your totals and filters, and then what you want to do is, totals and filters, and then you want to add your multiple filters per field. So select Allow Multiple Filters Per Field. That enables you to add, all of your slicers, multiple slicers, multiple filters up here, and as you use those, it'll go back to the value, the 10 that you want to see. And I think it's not doing it because I only have one, the same filter here. But if I were to add salespeople as a slicer, or if I were to add salespeople and something else as a filter up here, then it's not going to maintain that top 10 that I did earlier. But it will if you allow multiple filters. And again, go to Analyze, to the Table, go to Options, Tools and Filters, Allow Multiple Filters Per Field. Okay, and while we're in this pivot table options, for those of you who use Sage Intelligence and you want to distribute your reports, but you want to make sure that your users can see all of the supporting data, they can see the hidden sheet, they can change the pivot table and add fields, etc. What you'll have to do is go to Data in the same Options, Pivot Table Options menu, and save source data with this file. Make sure this is checked, then you can send the report off and the user can get all the information that comes with that particular report. And by that, it means that they'll see the sheet 1 data, and when they use these filters, or if they want to add additional filters themselves, they can. All the data goes with the report. Okay, from here I can just simply copy both my chart and my slicer. I can add a brand new sheet and I can call this one Dashboard. There's my chart. Oops. And then my pivot table. Let me see, pivot table. There's my chart. There's my slicer. Here's my sales dashboard. There's my heading. I can go up to view and not show the grid lines. Anyway, you get the picture. You can start formatting this. You can add as many little charts like this as you want, as many slicers as you want. Of course, format it to however you want it to look. Go back and save it in Sage Intelligence Report Manager, and every time you run it out, it will look like this. You'll have your dashboard. You'll hide your sheet 1 information. You'll hide this. You'll hide your, unless you want this one visible, you can keep this one visible. You can hide your sales data. Remember, that's just the pivot table and the particular formula for your dashboard. Okay, so that's the pivot table. Is quite a lot of little bits there, but I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go back to my sheet 1 because I want to add one more sheet to this particular report that I'm going to save for my user. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Power View table. And that's very simple to do. So I'm just going to click into my sheet 1. I'm going to go back to Insert, and instead of going to my pivot table, all I need to do is come across to the report section and click on Power View. And what it's going to do, it's going to take all that information, it's going to create a new sheet, and it's going to push it into the new sheet as a pivot table. And then you see it forming, there it is. So it's almost like an automatic pivot table. One click and you've got a pivot table. Now I will say what it does is it ticks off a few items, and it's not necessarily, might not be the ones that you want, but that's okay. You can come in here and you can uncheck them. And notice as I uncheck them, they're going away in the pivot table there. So it's so easy. So I can uncheck everything. I can keep customer name, but I'm going to uncheck all of these. I don't need the entry number. What I want is just gross profit and my sales amount. And there's my sales amount. So now I have customer name, gross profit, and sales. And now if I want to do a chart, I simply go to Design, and I have all these options over here. I can do bar chart, a column chart. Let's do a column chart. I'll do a clustered column. Clustered column. And there it is, nice and colorful. Now I can make it bigger, so I can stretch it out. And just like I did, similar to what I did in the pivot table where I wanted to arrange it differently. First of all, if you can see this, it's very small. It says sort by customer name. I want to get this little drop down. I want to sort by gross profit. There we go. And here it has ascending. I just click on it. There it's descending, and now I can see that descended by gross profit. Of course, I can change gross profit to sales, whichever one. And notice I could have this very small, so I can show just my top 5 or 10 just this way. That way I have more space to add additional graphics. And if you have it small, don't worry, because your user can come up here to this button, and notice when I hover over it, it says pop out. You can click the pop out and see it a little bit bigger. Hover over and see all the data as usual. I'm going to pop it back in. There's that little arrow. Popped it back in. And then, I'm going to make it just a bit bigger so you can see it. I don't really like this particular title. I'm going to change a few things about this chart. So I'm going to come over here to the Layout tab. Got to be clicked into it to get the layout. So there's the Layout tab. I'm going to come over here. I can add labels if I want, inside on the end, or I'm going to do outside on the end. It's quite small there, but I can make it bigger if I want. Go back to Layout. I'm going to move that legend to the bottom. Yeah, it looks a little better if I make it bigger. I go to Layout, and I'm going to remove that title because I don't want it. It's using those field names. So I can move this around however I'd like to. Okay, so there's my chart. You can see all of your items. I close this filters tab. Yeah, it's a little bit better. And then I can have my sales dashboard, the name of my report here. If I want a name for this particular quadrant, all I need to do is come up here to, Power View. This is the Power View, and I just want to insert a text box, and I'll call this Customer Sales. I can make more adjustments to this, but I'm just going to go ahead and move it up right above this little quadrant. And then, of course, if I want to add a slicer, I'm going to click out of that particular table chart, and I'm going to click on range, and I'm going to find, where's the salespeople? I haven't created one for them yet. There's salesperson, so I just select salesperson. It gives me a little table of one column here, but I can come up here to design, and I can change that to a slicer. And there it is. So now I can slice on my data. Hold the control key down and look at multiple. Look at that. Clear the filter by selecting that little pencil. I can move this around. There we go. I'm going to make this a little smaller again because I'm going to add one more. And the one I'm going to add includes that new field I added to that report, name city, and my line sales. There we go. So I have my line sales by city. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to design, And instead of a chart, I'm going to do a map. Now you need to be connected to the internet to do this or to see it later. But there we go. I just selected map, and now I have a nice big map. Again, you can make it small and allow the user to pop it open, hover over any of the circles. And you can change the name, of course. Name city is not the best field name. I just use that straight from the database. But you can change that. Very easy. And of course, you can change this heading. But what I also want to show you is you can go into layout again, and look at that, map background. So I can change the background to look something different. Look at that. There's a few of them. Data labels, you can also, add those. It looks a lot better, of course, when it's opened up. So there you see the data labels. I'm popping it in and out. And that's what you can do using Microsoft Excel's Power View. It is so easy. There's so many other things that you can add to that. All right, so when you're finished, of course, rename all of your tabs, delete the ones you don't want, and then go back to, this is the R in the very bottom, to Report Manager to save that particular report. That's my report, and I can save it to Report Manager in Sage Intelligence. So I'm going to minimize that again. Now I'm going to minimize this one because I'm going to show you the website. Give your screens a chance to adjust. I'm click happy today. Sorry about that. And there you are at sageintelligence.com. If you go to resources, hover over resources, there's that tips and tricks I mentioned in the presentation. You can either click on Excel Sage Intelligence here, or just click on tips and tricks, and it goes right to it. So there's a great error one. Hey, in the last session, part 1, I showed there's a tip in here, and I showed you where you can find it on errors, great basic errors that you can triage. Reporting trees, that's a Sage Intelligence one. There's more in Excel, so quite a few tips. Go ahead and sign up for tips and tricks, and you'll get these in your email as well. And then, of course, go to the Learning portal. If there's more information you want on Sage Intelligence, go to the Learning portal and choose your Sage solution. And you can click in and find videos and other things on Sage Intelligence. And finally, under Resources and Additional Reports, you can find the report utility. Of course, you'll have to choose your Sage solution prior to that, but once you choose your Sage solution, it'll give you a list of all the reports that are available. And remember, you can come in here and you can take a look at all the options of the sales reports here, and you will notice that some of these are Power View already. So we've already created these as Power View. I think we have some sales ones and some purchase Power View ones. But you know how to create your own now, so you can do it yourself. Okay, I'm going to go back to the presentation. Part 3 is next week, so go into sageintelligence.com, go again to Resources and Webcasts, and sign up, register for Part 3. It's financial, so it's just taking your financials, and there's quite a few tips on Excel in there, as well as 1 or 2 of Sage Intelligence. So sign up next week for enhancing your financials. Okay, and here's, for more information, you can go to youtube.com/Sage Intelligence. That is an area where we have all kinds of short videos as well as longer webcasts that you can access and view on Sage Intelligence and Excel tips. Go to sageintelligence.com. You can go to our community, sageintelligencecommunity.com, where there's a forum, thousands of people around the world that are able to help you with your Excel questions, with your Sage Intelligence questions. And then sageintelligenceacademy.com if you want to learn more about Sage Intelligence as well as brushing up on your Excel skills. Really, check out our Sage Intelligence Academy for our Excel on Steroids training. And if you found this video useful, please, we want to hear from you. We love your feedback. Like it and share it on your social media channels. Thank you for joining.